welcome to a BW Business World Dialogue. Today we are doing a BW Wellbeing World Dialogue. We have two messengers from God. There is a message from God, and we have the humans who brought the message and grace of God to the humans. Let me welcome Mr. Pradip Mukherji and Ms. Falguni Pathak to this BW Wellbeing World Dialogue. Let me introduce their book, which came out a couple of months back. This is a book of healing. This is a book of truth. This is a book of secrets. This is a book of salvation. This is a book of liberation, and this is a book of freedom. That's what it book wants to be. And the book says it reveals the highest game of deceptions causing the human suffering. So let me start by asking Mr. Pradip Mukherji, why did you write this book? Who is this book for?
I really don't know why I wrote this book. And I don't know for whom I wrote it. For most authors, they have a lot of passion in their writing. I had no passion in writing this book. For most authors, they are targeting their book to a certain class of people, to a certain group of people. But I wasn't targeting anyone while I was writing this book. Thirdly, this book doesn't really belong to me. If I were to write this book, I would write things which would take the contents at least 3 to 4 times more than what it is right now.
Right.
Which means someone was making sure that I don't write anything which that one doesn't want. Someone was already editing the book, someone was making me take out material from the book, and someone was telling me write this portion of the book. Now who is this someone? This someone I call as the God. So this is God's book that came through this human who has no idea of what God is doing. And that being so, the book is also known as Message from God, and when you read the book you will find it is God who is writing the book. That is the way the language of the book comes through.
Fantastic. Now, what made you explore this book and the concepts in the book? You talk about life is about suffering. So how did this search for God start, and have you found God?
You asked the question, how did the search for God started? No, I actually was exploring what suffering is. While personally in my life I don't have much of a suffering, I mean it is there, but it is not in a very huge way. But all around when I look into the world, suffering is in a very big way. People are suffering. All kinds of people are suffering from top to bottom, ignorant and knowledgeable, rich and poor, successful and unsuccessful. So suffering is common. Now as I started growing up, I found that probably religion is the way to come out of suffering, but I found that religion was also not bringing people out of suffering. People were highly religious, but even then they were suffering. So I thought spirituality would be the way to come out of suffering, and I found there that they had a different kind of suffering compared to the religious people. And of course the materialistic people were suffering. So none of the 3 areas of life which humans have, materialistic, spiritual and religious, suffering was the answer. Then I read Buddha's book, and Buddha just declared that this suffering is a part of life. But he did not answer one fundamental question which I was always wanting to know. Why do we suffer? Who gains from our suffering? Is there someone causing this suffering? These were the fundamental questions I had which no one had answered to. And I read all kind of books. Every book would tell me how to come out of suffering, but they wouldn't say why the suffering was there, who was causing it, what did that entity or individual gain from the human suffering. So this is where things were for me till one day someone knocked my door. And it was not actually the house door they knocked, it was inside my head. The door was knocked. And that one said, "It is now time to work for me." I said, "Okay, who are you?" He said, "I am God." I said, "Okay, God." Now, as a Hindu, I know many gods. Which one? He said, "I am the highest." I said, "Okay, so you are the highest. Anyone above you?" Well, no. Fine, what do you want? He says, "You have to work for me." I said, "What is your work?" He says, "I have come here to free my children." Who are your children? He says, "The souls are my children." Now, this is going very fast inside my head. A question comes, the answer comes. Question comes, the answer comes. Telepathically, a conversation was happening. And then the conversation kept on proceeding, and then coming into a part of it, I told the one that you say you are God. Number one. Number two, I have no interest in God. I was raised from a family that did not worship God, that did not go to temples, and I was never told to worship God, and I was never told anything about faith. So I was born up in a family which you can call to be an atheist, but I was not an atheist. I said, maybe there is God, maybe there is not, but no one knows. Everyone reads the book and talks about God. Everyone goes to temple and talks about God. Everyone goes to the Pandits, Gurus, Sons, Mahatma, Acharya and talks about God. So basically it's all hearsay. No one has any practical evidence that they really have had a conversation with God. So that being so, I am like, okay, so you are God, you want to free your children, good, but I have no interest in your children, because maybe soul is there, maybe it is not there, and why do you need me? And of all the people, you should have gone to some guru, some holy person, some spiritual guy. I am neither spiritual, nor I am religious, nor I am holy, nor I have any interest in all these things. I have no interest in any God. He says, no, you have to do it. And he said, I am okay. So I said, listen, I am not going to trust you. I am not going to revere you. I am not going to have any faith on you. And I will always hold you in tremendous amount of skepticism and doubt. That is be the foundation of my relationship with you. Skepticism and doubt, no faith, no reverence, no following you. But there will be another part between you and me. And this part will be, I am choosing you and I am committed to do the work for you, and I am going to follow your instructions 100%, even though I will not agree to your instructions. So I did not go out in search of God. It was God who came to me. It was God who talked to me. It was God who enrolled me. And then the journey started from there.
So who is God?
So at that point of time,
because you were searching for that question.
No, I was searching for a question.
And why is there so much suffering?
I was searching for a question. Who is creating this suffering? Why are they creating this suffering?
And why is God
and what did they gain from this suffering? These were my three fundamental questions for which no one gave any answer. So this one also did not give the answer initially. But subsequently it gave the answer. And how did the answer come through? The answer came through very interesting way. And what was the interesting way was, when I started talking with God, when I started doing the work of God, there was another character that showed up. And this character came and said that I am the king of this universe. You will not work for God. In return, I will give you whatever you want in life and anything you want after life. Which means I will give you anything in the materialistic world and I'll give you anything in the spiritual world. In return, you have to stop working for God. I said, interesting, you didn't come up till now. Now you showed up when I am working with God. But I already have made a commitment with God. I am not falling back on that. That's one part. But more than that, you cannot give me anything. Why? Because I have examined life so deep that I have found there is nothing in life worth giving me. Life has nothing that life can give me that really I want. Why I came to that point? Because I have examined everything that life can give. What can life give you? It can give you health, it can give you money, fame, status, power, all these things in the materialistic world, and in the non-materialistic world it gives you peace, bliss, awareness, siddhis and all these things. But I neither wanted peace, I neither wanted bliss, neither I wanted love, neither I wanted happiness. So what will life give me? And why I didn't want all these things? Because inherently I knew there is something wrong somewhere. The world is not the way the world shows up. That was very clear to me, but it wasn't really clear where exactly was the missing link. So when God came to me, and now this another character shows up called the king of the universe, that's when now the whole thing became very interesting. I found two gods against each other, the human byproduct, and both responsible for the human suffering.
Now, I am a practicing Hindu. I have grown up on worshipping Hindu gods, and I've gone to a church, I've gone to a mosque, I've gone to a gurudwara. What you're telling me is right. I keep asking myself, why is there so much suffering? What's good about so many children dying in Gaza, or people dying in Israel or elsewhere? There doesn't seem to be any good reason. Recently, 3 months back, a friend's 19-year-old son died. I don't know what is good thing about that. So honestly, what have you found about God? How does one achieve, as they say, oneness with God?
You cannot achieve oneness with God, okay? Because you have nothing which really can rise to the level of God. In order to achieve oneness, you have to come at par, and then only there can be an union. But there is nothing in you that can come at par to be at union with God. So we do not go into that part, how you can be one with God. The other part that we can go into, which I found very interesting, was two gods. One was the Father, one was the Son. The Son went against the will of the Father, and the Father said, if you want to go against my will, you cannot live in my home. And so the Son was pushed out. Not only the Son was pushed out, the Father told his children, the souls, that do not become interested in this guy. But the souls got interested in this guy. And they went against the will of the Father, and they said, we want to be with this guy, the King of the universe. So Father pushed even the souls away. How many souls? We have 8 billion people, multiple times more than that. That many souls were pushed out. The king was pushed out. And king was given a space where the king could play. The playground was 21 universes. So we have our planet, and planet is in a solar system. The solar system is in a galaxy. Galaxy is in a universe. 21 such universe. I just say this to give a sense of how big this canvas is. The king started playing in this. Now there were no humans when this whole thing started, but there were 3 curses that God gave to the king. The first curse, you will now be mortal, which means you will have to die and you will be born again. That was the first curse. The second curse, you have to eat the grime of the humans. Now, there were no humans at that time, but God said you have to eat the grime of the humans. What is grime? Grime is all the negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the humans. And third thing, you have to multiply the population of the humans. These were the three curses given to the sun as the sun was being pushed out. So, all the gods that you are worshipping and all the gods that the whole world is worshipping, irrespective of what religion, is a fallen god.
Why should we believe you?
You are not to believe me. You are just to listen to me. Because no one has talked the way I am talking. No one has the clarity the way I have. No one has the preciseness of the conversation that I have. I do not come from the scriptures. I do not come from any holy place. Personally, I am not a holy man. So I do not qualify to be someone whom you should trust, believe, but I do qualify to be one who should be at least listened once, because I talk direct, I talk out of the box, I talk radically different concepts, and I bring finally the understanding which will tell you why you are suffering. You may not agree to that, but at least there is some first time some person will tell you why you are suffering. Up till now, no one has ever told you why you are suffering. What they said was, you have bad karma, so you are suffering. But my question is, why do you have bad karma? They said, because you did bad deeds, that is why you have bad karma. I said, why did we do bad deeds? He says, but you did it. You had free will not to do. I said, really? I had free will? So you mean to say that I can control my thoughts? They said, yeah, you can control your thoughts. I said, how? You have to meditate. I said, then you should have made something like this. Till I meditate, there will be no karma. And till I am able to silence my thoughts, there will be no karma. And then you say, okay, now that you are able to silence your thoughts, now karma begins. Because up to that time you have made me as a structurally in which I am not able to control my thoughts. And then you tell me that I am doing all kind of bad deeds and so I am creating karma. So it doesn't add up.
Mr. Mukherji, what is the message from God? Is there a message from God which is universal, or is it very individualistic?
The message from God comes like this. Number one, understanding who God is and who not God is. That is the first message. The second message that comes from God is who is the human. Socrates said, know thyself. Ramana Maharshi, you go and he would say, who am I? So everyone is pointing to find out who you are. But no one ever has said who you are. So this is the second message as to who you are. The third message that says, what is the deception of this universe? The deception that was not revealed in such a concise and candid way, the way it was revealed in this book. So that is the next thing. The fourth thing, now you are given a choice. You now know who God is and who is not God. You know why this whole suffering is happening. You now know what the deception is. And after knowing everything, God gives you a choice. A choice, do you want to be with God or do you want to be with the king? Your king gave you your religion, your king gave you your spirituality. And how do you know the king? The people ask me, but what is this king? I say, very simple. Hindus call him Mahadev, Muslims call him Allah, Christians call him Father, Sikhs call them Vaheguru, Parsis call them Ahura Mazda, the Jews call them Jehovah. This is the same guy they are talking about.
That's God.
And that's not God.
You may play on words that
It's not a playing of word. That is where the book reveals it's not a play of word, because in order to be God, the first condition is you have to be immortal. But these are all mortals. Every time this one dies, who calls himself in all these names, the creation comes to an end. Every time he is reborn, the creation begins.
Okay. Now, you say this book is a book of healing. How can one get healing?
The way to get healing through this book is, this book contains the picture of two humans, and God says, I am now in these two humans. Their face is my face, their energies will be my energies, and if you talk to these images about all your suffering, all your pain, all your anxiety, fear, and anything which is negative, I will come and heal you. Now, it is a promise that God gave, but do you want to believe in it? I tell people, don't believe, find out. Which means carry out an experiment for 30 days, and in this 30 days, examine critically whether God is delivering or not what God said. If God delivers, continue. If God doesn't deliver, He isn't worth having you in your life.
Beautiful. You say this is the book of truth. What is the truth?
The truth has only one definition, it has three definitions. Number one, it is eternal. Number two, it doesn't change. Number three, it always is. Now, if these three characteristics are not there, it is not the truth. It is then mithya. What is mithya? Mithya doesn't mean a lie. It just means that it is an illusion. It just means not truth. It just means something that arises and falls. Now, the one humans worship, with whatever name they worship as, doesn't really fall in these three definitions, because it dies, because it is aging, it is changing, it gets old and then dies and again is reborn. So it is not the truth. Only God can be truth, which means God is eternal.
Okay. Now, what is the difference between salvation, liberation, and freedom?
Let's just talk about first salvation and liberation, because they are the two different polarities. How are they two different polarities? They both came, these two words came from two different narratives. The narrative in the East is you are born again and again and again. So you are having multiple births. But you come into a world where suffering is inevitable. And so everyone wants to become free from this cycle of life and death. This wanting to become free from this cycle of birth and death is liberation. You are liberated from this journey. But what is salvation? Salvation comes from the West. The West says there is only one life. And if there is only one life, then you don't care about really becoming free from this multiple birth and death. You don't care about going out of this cycle. Now, what is it that this human cares, who comes to know there is only one life? This human cares about that when I am judged, I should not be sent to heaven. So this one wants salvation. This one wants that I should become free from my sin. Now, I have explained liberation, moksha, salvation, mukti. But what is freedom? Freedom is coming where God says, I free from all your sins and I free from all your repeated cycle of birth and death when you come to me. But do you need to become my follower? God says no need. Do you need to believe in me? God says no need. Do you need to worship me? No need. Do you need to join a cult? No need. Do you need to go and become a follower of this one who talks to you about me? No need. Then only one look in the face of God or the goddess, and the job is done. So that is why this is the book of freedom.
Okay, you're saying experience it, find out for yourself. Now we live in a world, as you yourself said, there are lots of suffering, and maybe for various reasons, maybe in relationships, expectations which are materialistic. Now, let me talk from a personal angle. I lost my mom 36 days back. I have lots to cherish. She lived a long life. But yes, losing a mom is a mom. And there is always, I wish I could have done this differently and that differently. I could have taken better decisions in certain areas. So suffering is in the mind, so to say. Right? And someone who's dear to me said to me that your mom's soul is happy with you. I have no way to find out. I don't know where is my mom's soul. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know whether she's happy with me. I don't know whether she went through pain. I don't know whether she went happily. How does one get to answer these questions? First of all, are these relevant questions also to ask or not?
No, they are not relevant questions. But unfortunately, in life, human questions, 99% are irrelevant questions. So, if you really examine all the questions that you have, you will find 99 out of 100 are irrelevant. Why they are irrelevant? Because number one, there are no answers to those questions. Even if someone answers those questions, you will not have evidence. You will not have the way to examine them. You will not have the way to confirm them. And then it is only left to a point of, do you believe or not believe? That's what you are left with. Now, why is it that you are not able to do all these things? What is the difference between you and us sitting here is, you cannot go beyond your mind. You cannot go beyond the physical world. You cannot go beyond your five senses. We can go beyond all these things. How we can go? Because it is a gift given by God to us. In order to do work for God, I really cannot listen. I really cannot see. Because it is a dimensional work. And because it is a dimensional work, it needs certain cognizance and certain perceptions which are beyond the five senses of the human. And so many times we talk about all these things which a normal person finds to be very absurd, difficult to digest, and almost like, how do you know all these things? How do you say all these things? So it only comes because we have, let's say, a greater perception. Most humans do not have that. If they had the same perceptions we had, you would know exactly the things we talk about.
Okay, Mr. Mukherjee. Now I go to temples. I see temples are always busy, and I am all for it. So I am nothing. I daily go to a temple. You talk of astrology platforms. People are thronging to astrology platforms in more numbers than ever. You talk of psychologists, because they're dealing with mental health. Mental health is such an issue. It is such an epidemic. Your thoughts can trouble you. How does one find liberation or freedom from such negative thoughts on a very simplistic plane?
You just talk to the book about all your negative thoughts, and then you decide, are you getting freedom or not? But let me tell you something about God, what God doesn't give. First thing, God doesn't deliver your wishes. God doesn't deliver what you want. God doesn't deliver, God doesn't fix your life. God doesn't change people. Now, all these things, and these are exactly the things that people go and pray. They say, give me money, give me marriage, give me divorce, give me children, let me go to the foreign country, let me start a business, let me get a job. Now, these are not the things that God is going to deliver. Why? Because God says it is already written in your storyline, and I am not here to change your storyline.
So if it's already, as we say, it's preordained, in Hindu we say it's prarabdha, then all the in astrology the remedies, right? Though they say that whatever is predestined, but through remedies and karma, you can, and charity, you can possibly minimize.
The beauty of the remedies is it really doesn't give you what you want. What does the remedy give you? I have no children, give me a son. Now the son comes in. For few days or months or years I am happy as long as the son is listening to me. Now suddenly the son is not listening to me, and now again I am like full of anxiety, full of stress, because the son is not listening to me. What did you really want? You wanted a toy to play with in the name of your son, and when the son becomes independent, you have a problem with your son. You cannot give him freedom, basically because the toy is now saying I am no more a toy. That is the thing that every parents are facing. And then subsequently the son grows up. Now you say I want a good wife. Basically you are not wanting a good wife for your son, you are wanting a girl who should listen to me, the parents. And very soon you get, somehow you actually go through all the girls and actually examine which one is the one who will listen to me. You get that one married, but that one is not what presented it herself to be in that interview. The girl actually shows up who that girl is, and suddenly now there are big problems. And the guy getting married, he thought he had actually got the perfect wife, but it turns out the wife isn't all that perfect. Now everyone is trying to have happiness. But where is the happiness? There is a promise of happiness. Happiness is never delivered. People do not get it that the world that we live in is not heaven. This is not a place where happiness is delivered. This is the place where the promise of happiness is delivered, and what truly is delivered is pain and suffering.
So is there a way to, as you say in the book, invoke the grace of God and do it for 30 days, share your concerns, anxieties, problems, and invoke the grace of God?
You do not invoke the grace of God out of total disbelief, out of total disrespect and full of doubts, with a scientific mind, with a mind which says, let's examine it critically. You talk to the book. What you talk? All your negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, every negativity you are going through, every pain you are going through, every suffering you are going through, and observe carefully for 30 days what is happening. If at the end of 30 days, if the book delivers, forget about whether the book has any connection with God or not, because you do not know whether it is having connection or not. If the book delivers, continue. If the book doesn't deliver, drop the book.
Okay. And why is there so much suffering, by the way?
Why is there so much suffering?
Have you found an answer to that?
Oh yeah, there is a very good answer, and the answer is very clear. Between the fight of the two gods, one cursed the other, and God said to the son, you will have to eat the grime created by the suffering and pain of the human. So this God is also responsible. The son is responsible because the son is ongoingly creating this grime. The son is creating ongoingly suffering and pain. And this has continued since this whole game started. That is the answer to why there is so much suffering and pain.
Now, one of the things is, is just to be mindful. Like I'm talking to, I'm fully in the conversation, fully. Um, in yoga they say observe your breath, be yourself, right? Be more conscious of your thoughts, be a spectator, you know. Now, is it possible to use any of these techniques and the techniques you talk in your book, the message from God, to be able to be calmer?
You
Because there
know,
is so much anxiety.
the book talks about Shiva. Shiva came from the highest dimension, came through the stargate of the Kailasha, came through as a human, and delivered everything about all these techniques to the humans. Shiva took multiple births in order to spread these techniques all over the world. But the suffering and pain did not diminish. Even Shiva couldn't figure out why is it that the suffering and pain is not going down when I am giving the techniques to become free from suffering and pain. He couldn't figure out. And the reason he couldn't figure out was because he himself was being deceived by the king. He was being used by the king to give those knowledge to the humans so that king can create religion and spirituality to trap the humans in such a way that they will not go to God when God comes to the human. And all these techniques that you talk about, it is being taught to every person. Every person knows about mindfulness, but everyone is still suffering. You already know about mindfulness. You couldn't use it to come out of your suffering for 36 days, as you said.
My last question to you. So, you know, you clearly said that practice what is espoused in this book and know it for yourself whether it works or not. Don't believe me. But can you give me some examples of how it has helped people?
That cannot be given for the simple reason that whatever you will get cannot be put on a display board. If your business starts becoming beautiful, I can put it on a business board. If you are having cancer and your cancer goes away, I can put on a business board or on a display board. If you are not getting married, and not like you, if someone is not getting married and they get married, it can be put on the display board. But whatever God does is so subtle, it's almost you cannot bring it in the language. And whatever the people who got it, they will not be able to tell you why they left the religion and why they left spirituality and why did they choose God ongoingly in their life. This is something everyone has to find out.
So, is there a role for, say, healers? You're a healer. There are other people who do healing. People are doing aura cleansing. People are doing chakra healing. People are.
There is a role for the healers within the domain of the king. In the domain of the world, in the domain of the God, God is the healer, no one else is the healer. There is no modality for healing. In the domain of the king, there are multiple modalities, and the world of healing was created in order to give relief from suffering and pain. But even though there are thousands and thousands of healers, including the healers themselves are having suffering and pain.
Okay, beautiful. And let me ask you, there is something called serendipity. We call it coincidence. I couldn't come to your book launch. Today morning I almost decided to not do anything and stay at home, and then I decided against it. And I'm glad I did, because one, I kept my promise to you, and second, I'm sure I'll benefit from it. And it's good to meet you and be able to do what my life's mission is. So, really, what is the role for, what is serendipity to you? what is coincidence to you? Are there any coincidences?
Your life, since you were born and since you die, is nothing but serendipity. No moment of your life is outside the coincidences. Your success is a part of that coincidence. Your failure is a part of that coincidence. Now, why I am saying it? Because if your life is pre-written prior to your birth, someone has to come and execute that script. And in order to execute that script, it has to create meaningful connections. Otherwise, life will stop. It has to create up and down. Otherwise, life will stop. It has to create the energy that you are going to have and the energy that you are not going to have. Otherwise, you will always be running or you will always be down. So, this is what we call as serendipity, but this is something coming from a place of that which we like, we call them that serendipity, and which we don't like, we call them accidents. But they both are the same thing.
So, what is your life's mission?
My life's mission is only one thing: follow the will of God. Today, God said, come and talk with you. I came here and talked with you. Then I will ask next, what do I do tomorrow? What do I do day after tomorrow? I have no mission other than that. Because for me, God is live. I am not talking with a concept of God. I am not talking with something which I am assuming to be God. So I don't have an assumption. Why I don't have an assumption? Because I know everything from top to bottom that God is not. I know everything in the higher world, I know everything in the lower world, and I know everything in the parallel worlds. And because my gamut of knowledge is so huge that I know what God is not. I know this whole universe, all the dimensions. And because of all those things, for me, I know I am dealing with an individual who is not only highest. I am not saying this individual is all that great, compassionate or anything, but I am saying there is no one better than this available. Today, the humans have an opportunity to examine their relationship with this individual. They can try, they may not try. If they try, whether they will be convinced or not, again is between them and that individual. My job is just follow the will of God and let people decide.
Okay. Now, there is a song by UB40. It's a British band. It's coming to India in the next few weeks. It's called Higher Ground. And, the gist of this song is the more you know, the less you know. So how are you sure that you examined, explored, experienced every dimension that is there to be? What makes you believe that?
If you know more about bookish knowledge, then you know very less.
Right.
If you know everything live, then you know a lot. That is the difference.
And does it come from dhyan, contemplation?
No, it doesn't come. It comes from whether you have the awareness. Right now you have the awareness of everything which is in this room. I have the awareness to know what you cannot see which is in this room. And so my knowledge is not bookish, your knowledge is not bookish. But what is bookish is like the story of those 4 or 5 blind men trying to know what is the elephant.
Right.
That is bookish.
And today again, there are people who are preachers, there are gurus, and there is a new word called toxic positivity. You watch Instagram reels, you do these 3 things, and it goes away. Right? They're tools. I think they have some value. I would say they have some value. What do you have to say to quick fixes in today's world? Everybody's looking for a quick fix.
Everybody is looking for a quick fix for the simple reason that their attention span has gone down. They cannot digest lot of information. They cannot digest something which is very deep. So they want something which is very superficial, like go and feed the cow. I love it. Only I have to give that guy 10 rupees or 50 rupees and my job is done. Maybe I don't even feed, the other guy feeds it, who owns the cow. I only shell out 50 rupees. Now I come back home thinking that I have achieved great punya, and the astrologer said, if you feed the cow, your day will be good, your life will be good, and I come back with a dream. I have created a beautiful life. So all the quick fixes are about dreams, about having a beautiful life. We want to believe in it. And why do people go to astrologer? No, everyone knows that most of the astrologers do not know anything. Why do they still go? Because they want to hear someone giving them solace. Tomorrow you are going to have a better day. Tomorrow your things are going to improve. Tomorrow your life will be smooth. They just want to hear those words and come back. And for the sake of that tomorrow, they are willing to spend money on the rings. They are willing to go and sit in the havan. They are willing to go and worship in the temple. They are willing to go and feed the cow. Only for one thing, tomorrow will be a better day for me. That's all that matters to them, and for that they are willing to spend starting from hundreds, thousands, lakhs, crores just to have a better day tomorrow. No one cares about that how come my today is miserable. They don't have this fundamental question. Forget about tomorrow. Why am I miserable today? If you have that question, what role has the astrologer to play in your life?
What do you think about meditation?
God is not in favor of meditation for only one reason, not because meditation is not good, but because meditation connects you with the King. So if you have chosen God and if you meditate, you will get disconnected from God, you will become connected with the King.
Okay, definitely the last question. What is the impact a person who follows this book and asks this question of, may I have your grace, God?
Each one has to find out in their own way.
Okay, thank you for talking to BW Business World and BW Wellbeing World. I'm going to follow your advice and try and get my own personal experience of what you have on the journey.
So it is just that I just want to finish with just two more lines.
Sure.
That while we have this book, which is known as the Message from God, and irrespective of the contents of the book, which can be very exhilarating, it could be very freeing, but it could also be something which can upset you, which can create all kind of confusion in you. So don't try to read the book, try to talk with the book, try to use the book. I am the only author who says don't read my book. Every author says read your book, read my book. I say use the book, talk to the book. Anything which is negative in you, anything which is burdening you, anything which is creating suffering and pain, talk to the book for 30 days and experience the book. Do not try to go inside. Inside is it could be very challenging for a mind to grasp. But if you do not have this book, I give you something, because what would it cost you to buy this book? It just costs 160 rupees including postage and everything, which you can get from a website called alakhgod.com, which is alakhgod.com. So this is the website where you can get the book. You don't get this book in the bookshops. But if you don't want to buy the book, fine. We have another thing for you. We call this the healing cards. These healing cards you can download from the website in your mobile. Talk to the healing card for 30 days. Exactly what I said about the book, and see the shift showing up in your life. If you feel it is worth being with this card, continue. If you feel it is not worth being with this card, discontinue. So simple, clear message.
Thank you. My gratitude to you, Mr. Pradip Mukherji, for taking us through this journey, and to Falguni Pathak ji also for being here. And I was just thinking, and you were saying, see, I have whatever I've learned, it's not possible to give it away. Ego of knowing, experiencing. When you say don't do something, people have more, they would go and do something. You tell them don't buy this book, I'm sure they would buy this book. But buying books is good. I'm sure it will have a positive impact on you. Figure it out for yourself. Talk to the book and seek the grace of God.
The book, I just want to add, the book is in 5 languages: English, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, and Telugu. So currently we have these 5 languages. So if anyone interested in these regional languages, they can buy it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking to you. Made me think
A
about
great
things.
pleasure to be here.